Okay, we're live, Kev.
Beautiful.
Like I said, we don't have the intro, so we'll give it a minute. Let's just make sure this worked. Matt's probably going to pull this up and start laughing at us. Let's see. Yeah, it says live.
I'm dumpster diving a lot this week.
You are?
Oh yeah, big time. I'm
I
looking
like
at
that.
a lot of studs and well, not I guess not duds, but people who injuries cause opportunity, I guess.
Yep. Oh, wow, look at that. I didn't even need to. That's amazing.
What's up?
Technology's a wild thing.
Wild.
Oh, you know what? I can hear myself. For those of you jumping in, guys, what's going on? We're going to give it a minute. Obviously, we don't have any techno music blaring at you today. No intro. So we're just going to give it a minute for you guys. Kev and I here. And we'll get started. Yeah, no techno today, Kev. See, that's what you get when you know I'm at.
I was gonna say, I don't get some annoying siren in my ear. That sucks.
No annoying siren. I hope I have this set up right. I think we're good. Kev, you want to pull up the tube and make sure it says we're live?
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure I don't have anything wrong here.
I was just looking at soft mixing and soft Michael Thomas and all the
Soft
softies.
mix and soft Michael Thomas. Couple softies. Oh, I forgot that they can see my screen, huh? Should probably get off Facebook, Kev. What's going on, guys? We're just going to give it another minute here, and we will get started. Break down this Week 7 NFL slate. Little corkscrew in today's slate, too. Little corkscrew. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday morning. I know I am. I know Kevin is.
Yeah, I brought up the stream, by the way. We are Gucci.
Cool. Give another minute.
Stop. Yeah, MMA went pretty good last night.
Yeah. Good. I mean, dude, I won my $12 GPP. Thanks to that handsome MMA/NFL Kevy Big Bones.
I mean, you constructed that.
I never do MMA. Yeah, but I went to the guru. He told me to make some switches, and bada bing, bada boom. We're cashing, baby.
We actually had someone too. I think he put down.
I think I saw that 1,700, right?
Well, actually, in totality, he won 2,600. That was just one, and he put down $32 on the night.
Dude, I was looking at that. I think I finished with 590, so I think I would have had like a really big day if I just actually entered more contests. But
more contests, yeah.
Yeah, but
I think I'm guessing this person hit optimal, and as they came in like first out of like 2,300 people, and their score was 608, so we're too far off.
Yeah. Okay. Matt's in the chat, probably monitoring everything. So Kev, let's go ahead and dive in. So what's going on, guys? Obviously, we are missing Matt today. As you can tell, his ginormous head is not on the screen. He is currently with his family celebrating his birthday, which ironically, Kevin, is on Wednesday of this coming week. So Matt, which I didn't know, is a super greedy human. He celebrates his birthday the weekend before, assuming he's going to celebrate it that Wednesday. And then I think he would probably celebrate it the following weekend. So Matt turned his birthday into a 10-day birthday. So big happy birthday to Matt. Hope he's enjoying his day with his family and his weekend as well. Before we get started, just want to touch base on a few things. Patreon, for you guys who don't know, $20 a month to sign up gives you access to every single leverage sheet that we have for all sports going on currently. We have NFL, obviously, CSGO. Kevin talked about it earlier a little bit. MMA, which, again, another successful week. I feel like a broken record just saying that Kevin and Matt, or, Kevin, providing unbelievable MMA content week in and week out. I feel like every single week, Kev, there's somebody winning thousands and thousands of dollars. So, tip of the cap to you. I know Matt posted the NASCAR sheet today. We got the MLB showdown and NBA coming back December 22nd. So if you're not signed up, $20 a month gets you leverage sheets to all of those sports that I just named. Fantastic tool. It also gets you an invite to our Discord channel where all of our members can be and, bounce plays off of each other, talk about lineup construction, so on and so forth for all of those sports that Draftkings covers. So, yeah, it's a great tool to use. It's a great community. So if you want, the link should be in the description below or in the YouTube. I don't even know if it's called the description, but it's down there somewhere. You guys can find it. You can find us on Twitter as well. But, yeah, so, Kev, 12-game slate today. Week 7 of NFL, we actually, like I said, we have a corkscrew. The Sunday night game, 8:20 today, between Seattle and Arizona is actually on the main slate, which we haven't had in years. That game was originally supposed to be played at 4:25. It got flexed out to Sunday night and switched with that Tampa Bay and Raiders game. So now instead of throwing it off the slate, they just kept it on.
Just tacked it on,
yeah. So I feel like it's a weird dynamic that we haven't seen in so long, but I personally love it because it has a bunch of good plays in it between Seattle and Arizona. 56 team total, or 56 over under as well. So yeah, I think it's a great game to target. But what we're gonna do here, Kev, is we're gonna start at the quarterback position. And when we go by ownership, the top 5 quarterbacks right now garnishing the most ownership are Kyler Murray, who we just talked about in that Cardinals-Seattle game, at 12.3%, Deshaun Watson at 11.3%, Aaron Rodgers at 10.8%, Russell Wilson at 8%, and Justin Herbert rounding out the top 5 in ownership at 7.4%. Kevin, out of those guys, who are you looking at?
I mean, I talked about it earlier this week. I like Kyler Murray. I mean, it's just all those guys are that you mentioned are pretty similarly priced, except for maybe Herbert. I mean, if you want to pay down at 6,400 for him, I'm on him. I mean, we talked about him in the final look. T, I know you like him. You like the talent. You like the opportunity. You like the matchup. I like all of those too, and I think he's a good pay down option. If you're gonna be around that 7K price range and getting close to it, I just pony up the extra 100 for Kyler Murray because, as we talked about, his floor is just so high compared to everyone else. You know, Aaron Rodgers can do it all. Sean Watson can do it all, but their floor is not as high as his. You know what I mean? Right. Kyler Murray's floor is essentially 20 points, 20-something points. With his legs, he gets it done. I mean, like you said, he had 9 completions last week.
Yeah,
9 completions. And he scored, what was it? 29 points.
Draftkings points.
Absolutely incredible on 9 completions. Find someone else in the NFL who's doing that. Maybe Lamar Jackson. That's it. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. So yeah, definitely like him. And then Russell Wilson, if you really want to pay up at 8K, and you might be able to do it today with especially in cash games where you're going to probably take a lot of chalky people due to injuries and backups and handcuffs. I think you might be able to pay up for Russell Wilson today. And I mean that game, as we just alluded to, this game is going to be insane, I think. And so you want the Cardinals quarterback or you want the opposing quarterback, and might as well take the best quarterback in football as the opposing quarterback right now in Russell Wilson.
Right. What's going on with my? Okay, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Kev, I totally agree with you on Kyler Murray. I like that they actually stayed on the slate, thankfully. Seattle actually ranks 29th in DVOA against the pass and actually 9th in DVOA against the run. So we're looking at a secondary that has obviously struggled against opposing quarterbacks. They've given up 1,883 yards to opposing quarterbacks in 5 games, which is by far the most per game. So yeah, I definitely love Kyler at 7,100. I think he's a very viable cash option play, carrying the most ownership, and I think rightfully so. You talked about Russell Wilson in that matchup as well. Both of these guys, I think it's the over-under, I'm pretty sure, is at 56. For some reason, my Fantasy Labs is glitching on me, so I just got to find it on here. Okay, so 54.5 points is the over-under, so one of the higher over-unders on the slate that we currently have. You mentioned Russell Wilson and getting up to pay for him at 8K. I feel like it wasn't really a viable option until Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones went out, because it does give you that flexibility to pay down at the running back position, which opens up a little more cash. So I think you can get up to Russell Wilson. Me personally, I'd rather go with Kyler Murray, potentially pair him maybe with a D-Hop, who is carrying the questionable tag, but should be good to go. And like you said, Kev, he had 9 completions against Dallas and still had 29 DraftKings points. So that's pretty crazy, and I feel like that would be, what you would think would be a floor game. I know we had 24 against Detroit and Carolina, but to complete 9 passes and still get 29 DraftKings points is absolutely absurd, and it's because he can get it done with his legs too. He had 10 attempts, 74 yards, and a touchdown last week. What does he have, 7 rushing touchdowns this year? It's just absolutely absurd. So yeah, I definitely like Kyler as a spend up for cash. I would rather go to him over Deshaun Watson and a guy like Aaron Rodgers today. I think Herbert's a pretty interesting price tag at 6,400. I think you can get away with him too if you want to. It's a really good matchup against Jacksonville, who again has struggled against the quarterback position, giving up the 7th most receiving yards so far, or the 7th most air yards to quarterbacks. So I definitely like Herbert as well. But yeah, for me, it's definitely going to be Kyler in terms of cash. So Aaron Jones is officially out. I believe he was quote-unquote doubtful
Yeah.
leaning toward L. But yeah, now he's officially done. So it looks like it is Jamal Williams' time. Kevin, now these other quarterbacks in terms of pricing, what do you like right now for GPPs?
I mean, for GPP, I definitely think, I mean, the writing's on the wall for cash, I think. Like we talked
Yep.
about GPP, I think you can play around a little bit, see what you can get. By the way, I just looked this up because I just want to make sure. Russell Wilson is on pace right now for, I think he's averaging 3.8 touchdowns a game or something. If he continues this pace, he will beat Peyton Manning's record, by the way.
Woo!
So
MVP type season from
yeah,
Russ.
he's on pace for 60 touchdowns.
Yep.
So that's
That's wild.
incredible.
That is wild.
But yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I thought that was very interesting.
It's a good tidbit.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes, I mean, TJ, you alluded to, I know
Yeah.
we talked before we opened up here, the weather
Yeah. Big
is going
weather
to be
concerns.
inclement weather, correct?
Yep. Storm
So,
coming in Denver.
so Mahomes might be off that train. Josh Allen, you got to think he's kind of primed for a bounce back game here. At 7,700 too, especially how he's been playing. I think he's, not going to carry as much ownership as we've seen him carry in the past. I mean, and we've seen him clear 30 points how many times this year? So I definitely think he's a solid option. I'm going to stay away from people like we talked about, like Drew Brees with Michael Thomas out and Sanders, and it's just not. I mean, he's just, he doesn't have it.
Me and you out there.
Exactly, and then
Traquan
he
Swift,
can't.
Traquan
Traquan Smith,
me,
and yeah,
Jared Cook, you.
Adam Troutman.
It's all
Yeah,
the same.
it's
Adam
rough.
Don't bring up Adam Trout. Don't do that.
Don't you? Yeah. So I mean, the other one I was going to say. I mean, how do you feel about Matt Stafford? I mean, he's kind of on that cusp in ownership right now. He's looking at like, I mean, for me, he's looks around 5%. I don't know.
Yep.
You have a slightly more updated one. What do you think about Matt Stafford?
I think Matt Stafford's in a great spot, and I think the Atlanta Falcons have been so susceptible to opposing quarterbacks. If you can look on my screen right now, they've given up 2,071 yards to opposing quarterbacks through the air, 18 total touchdowns. I think Matt Stafford is I keep bringing up the YouTube. I got to close. Whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not really good at steering the ship here, but we're learning. It's a learning process. But yeah, Matthew Stafford at 6,500 is definitely somebody that I'm gonna have shares of. We've seen the Atlanta Falcons secondary just get bundled, so on. I mean, I feel like week after week. So pairing Matthew Stafford with some receivers that we're going to get to is definitely somewhere I'm looking. Again, they rank 32nd also in DVOA against the pass. So targeting Atlanta, I feel like, is a really good option. For me, though, if I'm looking to spend down, and he is actually carrying some ownership, it's going to be Joe Burrow. He's showing 6%. He had a very good game against Indy. They actually had 27 points. He had 20 DraftKings points as well, which was a pretty surprise against
a good defense.
Yeah, against that stout Indiana defense. Going up against a Browns defense now that ranks 19th in DVOA. Obviously, Joe Mixon is out, so I feel like they can't really rely on Gio too much. So I feel like the ball is going to be in Joe Burrow's hands, and it's a divisional game. Need a win, against the Browns. So, with Joe Mixon being out, I feel like Joe Burrow could have a huge day today. They're going to, like I said, put the ball in his hands, let him make plays, try and find guys like T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green. So, yeah, I think Joe Burrow at 5,500 is in a really good spot against the Browns. So I kind of like him for GPP, and you did say Matt Stafford. Those are my two GPP plays, actually, Kev. So
Okay.
you did read my mind. I definitely love Matthew Stafford in that matchup.
Got it.
Any other quarterbacks that interest you, Kevin? Any that tickle your fancy? Matt Ryan, maybe?
I was looking at Matt Ryan. Definitely.
I'd rather go Stafford.
I mean, I would too. I
Yeah.
would too. I'm just thinking. I mean, Matt Ryan is it's definitely he's intriguing. And been, to be honest, I was
So
looking.
up and down, so inconsistent. Just, I mean, if they're gonna be playing from behind, it's a whole thing with him. I feel like they always have big fourth quarters. I feel like actually the first couple games they were up heavily and blew a couple really big leads. But it is an over/under of 55, so I think it's definitely intriguing. But I would personally rather go to Matt Stafford.
I would too, but then there's one more person I'm looking at, definitely lower ownership, and I'm
Yeah.
just I'm more proposing it. I'm curious what you think. What do you think of Cam this week?
No.
No, okay,
No,
respect it.
I just don't like what I've seen from Cam. I don't like what I've seen from Jules. I don't know if it's Cam not being able to find Jules or if Jules kind of looks disinterested. N'Keal Harry was a disaster last week. I feel like I need to see more from Cam before I'm inputting him into some of my lineups confidently. It is a tough matchup against the Niners, who are banged up.
So banged up. That's the only reason I brought it up. I usually wouldn't, but they're so banged up right now.
No, I mean, I can definitely see it, but at 6,300, I'd rather pay $200 more and get Matt Stafford.
Yeah,
So
that makes.
that's kind of where I'm looking right now.
I like that.
moving on, Kev, running backs. And this is where we have the chalk. So currently the top 5 owned running backs for today's slate. We got Jamal Williams now with Aaron Jones officially being ruled out at 4K, showing 37% ownership. Alvin Kamara against that really weak Carolina defense, 7,900 at 37% ownership as well. Then Kareem Hunt at 26%. Gio Bernard with Joe Mixon out at 19.5%. And rounding out the top 5 is going to be Mike Davis, Kevin's boy, at 12.8%. Kevin, I feel like spending down here is definitely what you're going to see in cash. I feel like a lot of lineups are going to have Jamal Williams, Gio Bernard, and Alvin Kamara. Obviously trying to fit Kareem Hunt in there is obviously viable in cash. So I feel like a lot of cash lineups today are going to have 3 of those 4 guys. Who do you like out of those?
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to look like that. I mean, I think running back, like that, the sole position of running back is going to dictate everything in fantasy today. I think it's going to dictate everything. I think there's so much room here for GPPs this week because of how much chalk is at the running back position and how many pay down options are very attractive. And I think there's so much good chalk for cash games, and then there's so much good leverage in GPPs.
Oh, definitely.
So I really think I'm just looking at some of these names down there. I mean, people, like you said, they're going to be taking Kamara. They're going to be stacking Kamara. I mean, I got a kid in one of my leagues he's completing the trifecta. He's got Jamal Williams, Gio Bernard, and Mike Davis. Those are 3 running backs this
benefiting
week.
from all the injuries. I love it.
Yeah, just picking up on injuries.
Sometimes you get lucky like that.
Exactly. And I mean, I definitely think that a lot of people are going to be attacking that. And I'm looking down the line, like Zeke, Derrick Henry, look at their ownership, 6%, CH. I mean, I told you, TJ, before this stream started, I mean, we're talking about the inclement weather, and it's going to be, and when it's snowy, the teams run the ball. You know what I mean? Yep. It's something they can depend on. And that team too, and the Chiefs, I think there's just such a good unit as a whole. Mm-hmm. They can get away with being like, you know what? Let's not muck around today. Let's just pound the ball, get the dub, get out of here.
Get the dub, get in, get out.
Don't get anybody hurt. Exactly. Business trip, exactly. So I do like CEH. I think he's going to get a lot of totes, especially after what we just saw him, the workload he just got. Yep. And then James Conner. I really like James Conner. He's just very slept on, super high floor, still a fairly high ceiling. We haven't even seen him get that many touches yet. You know what I mean? Right. He's doing great with little touches. If he has one of these games where we've seen him, I mean, we've seen the Steelers pound running backs, you know what I mean, back in the Le'Veon Bell days. Even James Conner's gotten some games of almost 30 carries or 30-plus carries, and I'm just waiting for them to break him out. And this might be the game. They might try to kill the clock and keep the ball out of the Titans' hands. So I think James Conner has a lot of upside.
I like it. So for me, when I'm trying to decipher who I want in cash today, I'm definitely going to make Jamal Williams a priority. Houston against the run have been absolutely atrocious so far this year. They've been gashed in every single game they've played. They've almost given up 1,000 yards to opposing running backs, and as you can see, they have given up far more rushing yards than the couple teams behind them in Dallas and the Bengals. They've also given up 8 touchdowns on the ground as well. So I definitely think targeting Jamal Williams is going to be essential in cash. Obviously, with Aaron Jones being out and him only being 4K, it's very easy to do. I feel like you can plug him in cash and feel very safe about the play for him to hit value. After that, I'm trying to figure out if I do want to go to Gio Bernard or not, because I definitely want Alvin Kamara in my lineups. Obviously, we have Michael Thomas out. We have Emmanuel Sanders out as well. Very good matchup against the Panthers, who are 26th in DVOA against the run, 22nd in defense adjusted line yards, and they've given up the 29th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. We've seen Alvin Kamara in his production so far this year with Michael Thomas being sidelined. I mean, it speaks for himself. I feel like these last 2 weeks he was north of 8K actually, and had quote unquote tough games. In last week against the Chargers, 19.9 points, which was his floor so far. But I definitely love him in this matchup against Carolina. I feel like that offense is going to rely heavily on him, and rightfully so. He is their go-to playmaker, especially when Michael Thomas is out. You throw in Emmanuel Sanders being out as well. Again, I feel like they're going to rely heavily on Kamara. I think he's in line for at least, I would say, 20-plus touches easily. And, he obviously gets it done in the passing game as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 10 or 12 targets today. So I definitely like Kamara. And then it's for me, Kev, it's do I want to go to Gio or do I want to get Kareem Hunt? And, so far the Bengals, They rank 23rd in DVOA against the run and 25th in defense adjusted line yards. So they've been very susceptible to the run. Obviously, Kareem Hunt has been very productive with Nick Chubb being sidelined. Had a very tough matchup against Pittsburgh last week. Obviously struggled, but before that, he's been fantastic. Had a good game against Indiana, against the Colts. Great game against Dallas. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out who of these four I really want to spend up. I know I'm going to get Jamal Williams. I know I'm going to get Alvin Kamara. And from there, it's do I want Gio with Joe Mixon out, who's going to see, obviously in line for a lot more work, or do I want to go to Kareem Hunt? So I'm trying to figure that out right now. But I definitely know in cash, I want Jamal Williams and I want Kamara.
Can you get both?
Get both in terms of what?
Can you stack the game? Can you get Hunt and Bernard?
I think you can do that, but then I think you're leaving out one of Kamara and Jamal Williams because obviously you only get the two running backs, and then you have the flex.
I was gonna say you want to flex them.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'll tell you this. I mean, just a little insider info. I'm flexing running back today. Okay. That's the reason I'm.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think flexing running back is definitely the play to go because I think you're going to need three of these four guys in terms of cash. You did mention James Conner. I obviously like him. Tennessee is 31st in DVOA against the run. They've definitely struggled against the run. When we're looking at ownership, I feel like James Conner just constantly flies under the radar. He's showing 3.4% owned. So if you're looking for a leverage spot in a tournament play off of a guy like Kareem Hunt, I'm definitely looking at James Conner. He's been so productive so far for the Steelers this year. He's ran for 100 yards in 3 of his last 4 games and a touchdown in each. So I feel like James Conner always flying under the radar. I feel like you and Matt are always talking about him constantly. And again, a very good matchup against the Tennessee defense that has been weak against the run so far. Mike Davis at 6,600. Showing 12.8% ownership. I feel like he burnt a lot of people last week against the Bears. He was very high owned. Obviously, again, another tough matchup against a pretty good front seven. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to be off of him. So I'm definitely going to go back to the well with Mike Davis in a pretty good matchup against the Saints. They have been pretty good against the run, but I feel like Mike Davis does so much for that Carolina offense. Obviously, no McCaffrey still. So yeah, for me, Kev, I definitely want to save at running back. I'm definitely going to have Jamal Williams in terms of cash. Definitely going to have Kamara. And then for me, it's do I want Hunt or do I want Gio Bernard? If I can, I'm going to go up for Hunt. If I'm looking to save, I'm going to go to Gio. GPPs, I know you mentioned James Conner. You also mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yep.
So if we're looking at that Chiefs and Broncos game, as you can see, opened up for the Chiefs at a 28.75 implied team total over-under. They're at a 25.5 currently. I don't think I've ever seen the Chiefs this low in terms of over-under, which is pretty crazy, and it's obviously because of the weather. So I understand what you're saying when you're talking about pounding the rock and, getting in and getting out, just running the ball and trying to get a win. We got to remember that Lev Bell is going to be in the mix as well. I feel like Clyde Edwards-Helaire really ran hard last week to try and, show the Chiefs that, hey, I'm your guy at running back. I should be the one getting the carries. 26 attempts against the Bills, awesome, 161 yards. He looks fantastic. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Lev Bell in the mix. So I'm going to avoid that, but I definitely understand what you're saying in terms of low ownership and in a matchup where he should get the touches. But we'll definitely have to see. Kev, any other GPP plays for you? I feel like we covered cash. Any love for a guy like Kenyon Drake at 4,800 against Seattle? Maybe Justin Jackson?
I was thinking about Justin Jackson. I like that pricing. I like Kenyon Drake too. But I mean, like I said, just they lost they lost their spot. They lost their roster spot this week for me. As soon as Jamal Williams got the call, or Aaron Jones is officially ruled out, I definitely think he took any spot they would have taken for me. And Mixon was already, Gio Bernard was already close to, I was already trying to make that decision. Who would be kind of like the one to get the call. And I'd rather, at one point I had Kyler and Drake in the same line and was thinking about stacking it, but I don't know. Kenyon Drake, it is really cheap. It's so stupid. He has a base performance of his season, and he drops to 4,800. There's not a starting running back in football that has like the amount of touches he's had to have ever seen at 4,800. Yeah. That's insane. So I don't quite understand that. Definitely think there's some upside there. DeAndre Swift is a little interesting to me just because of how he did last week. Yes. I don't know how that game's going to go. I don't really understand how they're going to use him, especially parallel to AP. But it's interesting. Todd Gurley, I know Matt liked too, so I'll bring him up. And then I was looking at Josh Jacobs. It's so contrarian, but the thing is, I mean, that Bucks run D is so freaking good. I mean, if you look at go look at CMC's. This is a good indicator. Go look at CMC's 2019 season, and he snapped and ran wild on every single team except for 2 games where it was like ridiculous. It was like 19 for 37 yards. And you're like, what the hell happened there? Both time were the Bucks. The Bucks front is terrifying. Now they got Devin White too. It's just the best linebackers in football. It's just I don't pick guys to run against the Bucks.
Yep, makes sense. For me, for GPPs, Kev, looking at ownership, I'm looking at Justin Jackson. Obviously, Eckler is out, and last game for the Chargers, it was unsure if it was going to be Joshua Kelly or Justin Jackson leading that backfield, and it looked to be Justin Jackson, who secured almost 60% of the offensive snaps. So I think he's in a really good spot today against Jacksonville, who, again, Matt, I'm sorry, but they just haven't been good against the run or the pass. They just have been a terrible defense. I know you're watching. I see you in the comments. But, yeah, they've struggled. So I think Justin Jackson's in a pretty good spot. I see, obviously, that it says that he has the plus sign, which is injured, but he is going to play today. So I like Justin Jackson. And I also don't hate – I get what you're saying, DeAndre Swift. I could see myself playing him. I don't hate Antonio Gibson either in a good matchup against Dallas. He's been losing offensive snaps to J.D. McKissick, unfortunately, but he has been productive, which the opportunities he's gotten. It's a really good matchup against Dallas. So yeah.
And you think they can keep this game close? And
yeah, I do.
Where they'll use him more than J.D. McKissick in the as a scat back.
Yeah, the marquee matchup, right, between Washington and Dallas. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking. I also think that Chris Carson's a really good pivot off of guys like Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Lockett.
I love Chris Carson all day long. I mean, I don't care what his ownership is. I will always support that decision.
Yep, tough matchup against that Cardinals front seven, but again, I think it's a pretty good pivot. And at 6,400, I think I'm gonna have definitely some of him in some GPPs. But let's get moving on here, Kevin. We got the two rambling idiots. We don't have Matt to watch over us today, unfortunately. We're not being babysat. So let's get to wide receivers. So looking at ownership right now, Davante Adams takes the cake, 23.4% ownership for Davante. Terry McLaurin at 19%. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, the two Seattle wide receivers who I just mentioned, at 18.2 and 16.7% ownership. And then Keenan Allen at 16.7% ownership. So those are the 5 highest owned guys in terms of wide receivers on the slate today. Kev, if you're picking one of those guys, who are you looking at?
It's really interesting to me. I mean, some of these people, Keenan Allen, after back spasms, that's not something I want to hear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's something that going on. I feel like
he's always has
relatively
something
healthy as of late, but I feel like in the last couple of years,
historically, yeah. No, 100%. And the thing about back spasms and stuff is it's not an injury that he went through the progression. Now it's healed, and he seems to be making good progress. This is something that could come back at any point. You know what I mean? He's playing, he tweaks it wrong, and bang, he's out again for the so. It's a little surprising to me. People are looking at him as a cash games option, even at that price. I mean, the upside's huge at 6,200. Don't get me wrong,
right.
But that's just a little scary for when I'm thinking cash. I want to think solidified. I want to think safety. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's not very safe if he's having that issue. Davante Adams, bounce back week. I'm all in on Davante Adams in that offense. Last week was just a dumpster fire against a good defense. I'm all back in on this offense. I think there's going to be a shootout. Yeah, so I think, Davante Adams will probably be, I don't want to say Davante Adams is my favorite pick there just because it's kind of obvious. I always like Terry McLaurin, that at 5,800, it just leaves you so much room. But I think you pay up for wide receiver this week. Like I said earlier, I think you pay down at running back, and I think you pay up for wide receiver. Unless if you're in some GPPs that you want to, but you're gonna have to pay down at some point, and you're gonna have to pay at running back, even if you're doing a GPP, because there's just so many good pay down options, and you're gonna have to pay up at wide receiver. So I definitely think I'm looking at people like Diggs too, and like you mentioned the Seattle boys, they're just absolutely crushing it. Like I said, Russell Wilson's on pace for the most touchdowns in the NFL. If you allude back to when Peyton Manning broke the record, he had four receivers in the 3 wide receivers, and the tight end I'll count as a receiver, and his running back were all feasting. You know what I mean? So I have no problem believing that Metcalf and Lockett can feast on the same day, almost every day. So I like those picks. I'm looking at Robbie Anderson rounding off the top 10 too, and I don't really know how I feel about him still. I still think that's almost like a farce. I feel like I'm just living in a different, I walked in Narnia or something. I don't understand how he's doing so well. I still think DJ Moore's the best talent on that team. No disrespect to Robbie Anderson, he's very talented, but I still think he's more of a deep threat, and DJ Moore's more the guy. Mm-hmm. But and last week he actually did, I said that last week, and last week was actually I believe one of the first weeks that DJ Moore games, actually outshined him, and in basically all categories. So yeah, I mean, the cash game options are interesting to me, to say the least. I'm just looking at some of the ownership, and it doesn't quite make sense to me. I mean, I get a little bit where they're coming from, but I'm seeing people like Diggs, who's been lights out at ninth overall right now, or looking at the ninth highest ownership, which is just it seems low to me. D Hop at 10. I mean, D Hop we love every single time, TJ. And then Julio, I'm surprised, especially after those big games, and they're all affordable. But I'm going to ask you, like, as you go down, I'm just going to transition to when we're going to GPPs. Like, I see a lot of people around the similar price tag, and I'm asking not just for everyone else, but for me too, because I'm sitting here, I'm looking at it, and I just don't know where to put it. And I have Kenny Galladay, Will Fuller, and Kenny Galladay, Will Fuller, and then is Amari Cooper here? Is he not?
Amari Cooper, no.
No. Okay, I was going to say. I thought
in that price range, you have Will Fuller, Kenny Galladay, Tyler Lockett.
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb, maybe? Or maybe you were talking about Tyreek Hill?
No, I'm just wondering where Amari Cooper's not on our sheet, which is that must mean he must be carrying lower than X amount of percent ownership, right?
I see Amari Cooper at 0.8% ownership, so 6,900. I don't know how I just missed him. Where is he? Oh, there he is. He's right in front of me.
That's why I'm just kind of confused, because I mean so right around that price tag. I mean, which one out of those ones? You're looking at like a Kenny Galladay, a Will Fuller, and a Cooper. Who do you like?
I'm looking at Kenny Galladay. I think it's a dream matchup against the Falcons secondary. Again, we talked about Matthew Stafford as a GPP play. I'm definitely going to have lines where I have Matthew Stafford, Kenny Galladay, and unfortunately, I might come in with some Marvin Jones. But I'm definitely prioritizing Matthew Stafford and Kenny Galladay. I mean, it's just a fantastic matchup against an Atlanta secondary that ranks 30th in DVOA against the pass and have given up the 28th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. I believe right now the spread is only at 1. Yeah, it's a 1-point spread. The Falcons are favored, so it should be a relatively close matchup. Again, we have a 55 over-under total, so points should be scored. So I definitely like Kenny Galladay at 6,700. I think he's a really good play, and he's only carrying 10% ownership, as I'm seeing. He had 100 yards. I mean, last couple games hasn't been great. I mean, coming back from injury, so he's only played 3 times this year. He's been productive, but I feel like we haven't seen that ceiling game from him, and I definitely think today could be that day. So out of those guys that you were talking about, I'm definitely prioritizing Kenny Galladay at 6,700 in that grouping. In terms of cash, I really like Davante Adams, obviously, with Aaron Jones out. And Davante Adams coming back from injury, obviously struggled against Tampa. It was a very tough matchup. He did see 10 targets, though, 6 receptions for 61 yards. I think he's in a much better place against this Houston defense that has more struggled against opposing running backs, but have still given up yards through the air. And again, in one of the higher over-unders, I'm pretty sure the highest over-under at 56, I guess this. Yeah, so at 56, the highest over-under. I definitely like Davante Adams in line for a big game at 7,900. I'm making him a priority in cash. And then you talked about Scary Terry at 5,800. Again, a dream matchup against Dallas and Anthony Brown, who have struggled so far in that Dallas secondary. So those are the two guys, and they are carrying the most ownership. But I definitely like both of them more than Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So I'm definitely prioritizing that grouping of Davante Adams and McLaurin for cash. Again, carrying ownership, and rightfully so. And then in terms of GPPs, I am looking at Kenny Galladay, and I am looking at a little bit of Marvin Jones at 4,400. So that's kind of where I'm looking at right now. I know you mentioned Stephon Diggs. It's a really good matchup against an atrocious Jets defense that, I mean, winless, terrible, basically given up on the year. 10.5-point favorites are Buffalo going to New York. I am just afraid that they can jump out to a really big lead in the second half, just kind of coast. Maybe you'd see like Singletary in the second half and maybe some Zach Moss. Obviously, Singletary took the reins in that backfield last week with 75% of the offensive snaps, but that's the only thing I'm worried about is the game script when it comes to a guy like Stephon Diggs. We have Traquan Smith. Obviously, without Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders at 4K, I think he's viable for cash as a plug-in. Keenan Allen, you did mention a good matchup against Jacksonville. Secondary's pretty good, but they've been susceptible at defense all over the place. So I definitely can get behind Keenan Allen at 6,200. But for me, in terms of cash, again, Davante Adams and Terry McLaurin are the two guys I'm going over guys like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking right now. I wouldn't hate a guy like Brandon Cooks at 10% or Will Fuller in that potential shootout against the Packers if they find themselves playing from behind, which has been a theme for the Texans. Big halves for guys like Deshaun Watson, obviously throwing to these very fast guys on the edge or on the outside, and Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. And you mentioned DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I can't figure out who Teddy Bridgewater is going to throw to week in and week out. I feel like he just keeps switching it up. Snip, snap, snip, snap. So he can't make up his mind. I can't make up my mind. But yeah, I think one of them's in line for a big game. Pick your poison. Flip a coin. Last week it was DJ Moore. Week before it was Robbie Anderson. Week before it was Robbie Anderson. Week before it was DJ Moore. So like I said, snip, snap, snip, snap. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking, Kev. I also have some interest in guys like Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, who I feel like you're in love with T. Higgins.
I love both of those guys.
Yeah.
I've always Tyler Boyd's so slept on. So they're both very, very viable options.
Yeah, 5,400 and 5,300 in a pretty good matchup against the Browns. I feel like you can pair him with Joe Burrows. I wouldn't mind having both of them in a lineup, honestly, which should be a competitive game against the Browns. Pretty good matchup and some really cheap pricing for Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. If I'm picking one, I'm going with Boyd. But I understand the T. Higgins play. We have Jamison Crowder also out for the Jets. So in a game where they're going to be playing from behind pretty big, the rookie Gabriel Davis, who has been pretty productive, obviously struggled against Kansas City because Brashard Perriman was back, so he didn't see as many offensive snaps. But, in a game where Perriman was out, he had 9 targets last week against Tennessee. I mean, they got absolutely throttled. 5 catches, 58 yards. So I don't hate him at 3,600 as a punt play. He's carrying 6.4% ownership. And also, Deontay Johnson, Kev, I feel like he has kind of taken the back seat to Claypool. Claypool, I believe, is at 5,700 right now. So if I'm getting Deontay Johnson at 4,200, if he can stay in the game and actually be healthy, really good matchup against the Tennessee secondary. So I definitely don't hate that as a play either. So yeah, that's.
I just don't know what to do with. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what to do with that receiving core. I mean, they still have James Washington too, who's very deadly at all times, and it's just. I mean, now Ebron's in the mix. It's just. I don't know what to think about it. I mean, Juju is the one that it looks like is almost suffering the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Which is surprising.
He's been a ghost, I feel like. But Kev, let's keep this train rolling, guys. I see a bunch of questions in the comments. Go ahead, keep rifling off. Kevin and I will just breeze through all of them once we're done. We're moving on to tight ends, then we'll touch base on defense quick, and we'll get to all your guys' questions.
By the way, I like AJ Brown too. Just throwing that out.
Okay, love it. So the tight end position, ownership-wise, Kev, we see Travis Kelce, 16% leading the charge. Hunter Henry in a really good spot against Jacksonville at 14.2%. Darren Waller at 9.8%. Jared Cook, 8.9%. Austin Hooper is out. I don't know why he is showing 8.4% ownership, but please ignore that. And it looks like, I guess, 6th, so technically 5th, is going to be TJ Hawkinson at 5.6%. Kev, where are you going for tight end this week?
Joku.
Okay, going to David and Joku.
We're paying down, we're paying up, and like we do every week. And then, like I said, I in the middle. If you're gonna touch the middle, I don't hate Jonnu Smith, and I don't hate Hunter Henry. But aside from that, I mean, I'm not gonna touch anybody else even close to that range. I'm either gonna take the big pay up for a Kittle or a Kelce. I mean, they're 1A and 1B. If you look at their numbers and their consistency, like I love Waller. I'm a Waller owner. He's not them. No, nobody's them. I don't care if he had 14 receptions.
Waller.
Don't you? I know he had 12 receptions in a game or something crazy, but no one is doing what they're doing right now.
Yep.
So, big on them, and then or just punt it in Joku. I'm telling you, punt it at a couple positions today, and you'll be surprised who you can get. I was looking at like my wide receiver core today, and I was just like laughing. I was like, I've never gotten anything like this for 3 wide receivers. So,
okay,
it's interesting.
I like it. So for me, the Kelce ownership showing at 16%. I definitely don't think I'm going to get there today. Obviously, I'm really concerned about the weather that they do have in Denver. Obviously, we have a blizzard going on up there in Colorado. So, I'm going to stay clear paying up for Kelce. I definitely like the pay down spot for David Njoku with Austin Hooper being out.
I know Kittle, we talked about, not to cut you up. I know Kittle, you were going to I was going to say, I know we were both talking. We were a little worried about the Gilmore effect and the double up as we saw in Waller.
We got Gilmore, Duggar, the McCourty brothers. I feel like they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Kittle, so I really don't like that. I also, we're talking about David Njoku. I don't hate Harrison Bryant as a pump play either, the second Cleveland Browns tight end at 2,500. So I don't hate that, but for me, Kev, I'm kind of looking at like Hunter Henry at 4,500. I feel
I
like
like
Matt
that.
just thinks I'm going at his throat today because he's not here because I'm just targeting everybody playing against Jacksonville. But, it's a theme that I kind of like to go to. Again, like people picking against the Jets. I feel like it's a really good thing. Amanda just left the apartment. She's leaving me forever. So, yeah, Hunter Henry at 4,500. I think that's where I'm going right now for tight end. Again, I don't think I'm going to get up for Kelsey. Hunter Henry showing 14.2% ownership. I really like him as a cash play against Jacksonville, who ranked 24th against tight ends, and they've given up what looks to be the 7th most yards to opposing tight ends. It's kind of a cluster right there, as you can see. Given up 5 touchdowns as well in 6 games, so I feel like the upside is there for a guy like Hunter Henry, and I feel like it's a pretty good price point at 4,500. So that's
He's missed that price point one time out of his
right.
5 games he's played,
Yep,
and
and it was
if you're
against
looking at
Tampa
4,500.
in a tough matchup. So, but we can see the volume is there. He's had 7+ targets in
I
4
was
out of
gonna
his
say
5
every game
games.
except that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, so the opportunity is there. I think it's a pretty good price point for him. I could see myself getting behind a guy like Jared Cook at 4,300. Only because of opportunity, obviously, because
Yeah.
we have Michael Thomas and we have Emmanuel Sanders out. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
hate going to Jared Cook at 4,300. Obviously, the targets haven't been there. That's with Emmanuel Sanders. So if you're missing Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, obviously more opportunity for guys like Jared Cook, Tre'Quan Smith, obviously going to rely heavily on Alvin Kamara. But yeah, at 4,300, I think that's a really good price. I don't know why Austin Hooper's on here. It kind of just unsettles me, but whatever. TJ Hawkinson also at 5K, I feel like is a really viable option. Atlanta's secondary has just struggled against everything. Wide receivers, quarterbacks through the air, obviously, and tight ends as well. Giving up the most touchdowns to opposing tight ends with 7. So I could definitely see TJ Hawkinson finding the end zone today at 5K. So I kind of really like this mid-range. I don't really like the Kittle play at 6,400 or Travis Kelce at 6,300. I'd rather go, or for that matter, 6,100 for Darren Waller. I do like that mid-tier, and I think that's where I'm going to find myself more often than not. But yeah, I can definitely get behind one of those cheaper Browns plays as a punt in Njoku or Harrison Bryant as well. So Kev, anything else on tight ends?
Not that I see. Nothing really stands out. Like I said, it's pretty cut and dry this week. I mean, like we talked about opportunities like Hawkinson and Henry, they should be, and I like the Jared Cook pick. That's someone I really was kind of glazing over today. And, it's definitely something that, you sold me on. And I mean, I've watched a actually good amount of Saints games this year. And in the games Michael Thomas has been out, he couldn't connect with Sanders, whatever. I mean, that's kind of that's Drew Brees' safety net. So
Yep.
I like it.
I like it too. All right, moving on to defense, Kev. We're at 12 o'clock, so we're making pretty good time. We should have about 10 minutes to answer questions. So defense in terms of ownership, I mean, everybody's on the Washington football team, showing 27.3% at 2,500 against Dallas. I feel like that is a crazy amount of ownership for a defense. The Browns coming in at second at 14.5%, and then no other team eclipses that 10% ownership mark. We have the Chargers at 7.1%, the Saints, Lions, and Jets all at 5%. Why are the Jets at 5% owned? I don't know. But Kevin, out of those teams for defense, are you just looking at Washington and saving at 2,500, or is there another defense that you're looking at?
That is correct.
That is
what I'm doing.
correct.
That is all I am doing is just punting at that. I mean, I built a lineup like around that. And earlier in the week, before I even saw ownership or anything, I just plugged it, and I was like, okay, now what? Like, I'm just gonna punt at the position. I mean, I understand that Andy Dalton could come out and absolutely light everything up, and the Dallas Cowboys could actually look like
Wait,
the offense we've seen.
hold on, backtrack. Did you say Andy Dalton was gonna come out and light it up?
Could.
Okay, good.
Not
okay.
gonna.
Okay.
Could.
I thought you said should, and
No,
I almost ended
he
our
shouldn't
stream.
do anything.
Okay, he shouldn't do anything. Exactly.
He should be on a bench far away from a football field.
He should be on a bench far away from a football field.
But I mean, the thing is, he could, but at the end of the day, at 2,500, it's just, and the Washington defense has, to be honest, they haven't gone negative this year. And if I'm going to punt at defense, that is one of the things I want to see. They haven't gone negative. Okay, so I'll take that, and obviously the opportunity makes sense, and is the reason they're carrying that much. Pay up options, TJ. Who's your favorite pay up option for
defense? So,
defense?
Kev, I have on the screen right here, I have Andy Dalton's production last week against Arizona. He threw 54 times. He had 2 interceptions. He got sacked 3 times. He only threw for 266 yards on 54 attempts. So, for me, spending down at defense is something I want to do. And it obviously is going to be the Washington football team in cash. So if I'm looking at a spend up, I mean, if I can get the Bills at 3.9%, I understand $4,700 for a defense is absolutely absurd for a price tag. Like, I can get Gio Bernard or the Bills defense, or I can go get Jamal Williams, like, just in terms of pricing. But yeah, I mean, we've seen the Jets offense just absolutely terrible. Haven't won a game, haven't been productive. So that Buffalo defense should absolutely swarm them. Like, are the Jets going to score today? Like, that's a legitimate question. No Jamison Crowder. Like, are the Jets going to score today? No Lev Bell. We got Frank Gore and P. Ryan in the backfield. We got Joe Flacco leading the helm. Like, I don't know if they're going to score a touchdown. So if I can get the Bills at 4,700 at 4% ownership in tournaments, I'm definitely going to do that. Again, it is tough to try and find that flexibility, but I think with the punt plays at tight end that we covered, in the running back salary savers and Jamal Williams and Gio Bernard, I think it's a viable option today. So at 4,700 for the Bills, I definitely love that. I mean, Kev, we're talking about the snow game that's going to happen in Kansas City and Denver. So Kansas City at 4,300, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at where are you, Broncos? Broncos at 2,900, showing 0.5% in what could virtually be a blizzard. They looked really good against the Patriots. Obviously, I'm not comparing the Patriots offense to the Chiefs offense, but in a game that could have snow on the ground and be an absolute mess, like, I could see myself taking a chance on this Broncos defense at 2,900.
It's a tough divisional matchup. It's their home. They're used to it.
Yeah, I would never say this in any other matchup where there isn't, potentially 6 to 9 inches of snow on the ground. Obviously, the field won't be covered in that much snow, but there is going to be snow on the ground and on the field. So I could kind of see myself taking a chance at 2,900 on the Broncos defense if they're going to be 0.5% in tournaments. I'll definitely have a shot. I'll have a couple of them in some of my lineups. But for me, yeah, I'm definitely looking at the Washington football team. I think that's a safe play for cash at 2,500. Again, carrying 27% ownership, and rightfully so, against that putrid Dallas offense that is no longer led by Dak. We also saw some fumbling issues from Zeke last week where he had 2 fumbles, I think, on 2 straight carries, or it was 2 straight possessions.
One was kind of a fluke, but yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a fluke, but still.
Shovel.
I mean, fumbles are points for defense if they recover. So
True.
Just a little tidbit there. And then, yeah, if I can pay it for the Bills, I'm going to. And I am looking at that Chiefs and Denver defenses in that matchup because I think it could be an ugly game today. So that's kind of where I'm at for defense, Kev. Any other defenses that you're interested in?
No. Okay. Just straight up no. I just think it's kind of like the ones we went over, and then everything else is just you're just taking a shot.
Okay. All right. So I kind of have some interest in the Bengals defense, but I'm not going to dive too far into that.
No, yeah. I wouldn't.
I would save myself the embarrassment from just getting roasted by everybody.
I know it's nice to mention in case, but I wouldn't.
Just in case. Yeah, I threw it in there. If they do really good,
he did throw it in there.
Kind of be like, hey, guys, remember I mentioned the Bengals defense? I mean, all right, so Kev, let's transition. We got a bunch of questions over here in the comments. I'm going to start from the top. We're going to rifle these off. Guys, if you have any more questions, so that's the entirety of the slate that Kevin and I have to cover. Going to go to the questions now. So, Kev, here we go. Ian Thomas season. Okay. Matt's always here. Yes, Matt has been in the chat. Matt, you are the bot today, so thank you for being here. You are not here to defend yourself, unfortunately, so we can say whatever we want about you. Aaron Jones officially inactive. Yes. Jamal Williams carrying the ownership. Kev, Mike Evans. Any Mike Evans love today?
I saw that. He's got pretty weirdly low ownership. From where we've seen him. I mean, he's always just kind of like, I don't want to say slept on, but he's always just under owned. But he's even more so today. He's looking at, I think it was like 6%. So I think Mike Evans could be a sneaky play for sure.
Yeah, I don't hate it as a tournament option, but I don't.
6,200 is just cheap too.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get there today. Kamara 100% lock, TJ or fade. I love Kamara today, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna have him in every single cash lineup, and more often than not, most of my tournament plays. I think at 7,900 with those injuries, I feel like you can't go wrong with a guy like Kamara. A lot of people asking about A.J. Dillon. I don't hate it because I feel like the Packers do utilize the 2 running backs. I feel like Jamal Williams is a really good change of pace back for when Aaron Jones is in there. So I definitely feel like we could see, maybe 30 to 40% of A.J. Dillon in snaps today. So I don't hate it at 4K, but I would definitely rather go with Williams, and then I'd rather try and get Gio Bernard. I feel like obviously the opportunity for Gio Bernard is going to be greater for A.J. Dillon. Edelman or Kirk? Kirk for me, 100%. I don't like what I've seen from Edelman. Henry going to go off against the Steelers. I don't like that matchup for Derrick Henry. I will not be going to Derrick Henry. I think that's a really good stout front 7 for the Steelers. So I am off the Derrick Henry train.
Nasty defense, Henry snaps.
Yep.
I'm going to say it.
Humphreys,
nasty defense and Steelers, but Henry snaps.
Okay. Humphreys, okay for a cheap wideout. Anyone else below 5K? Let's bring up the wide receivers below 5K.
Now, let me sort this by salary.
I'd rather go to a guy like Christian Kirk or Cole Beasley. John Brown is out today, so I like Cole Beasley to fill in for that role with John Brown being out. I'd rather go to
I don't
Kirk
hate
Cousins.
Debo too. Like I said, I think Kittle's going to draw a lot of that coverage.
Okay. Yeah, I'd go Kirk or Cole Beasley. Should I start Jamal Williams today over Montgomery or David Johnson? I would go with, I mean, I don't know if you're saying one or the other, but yeah, I'd get Jamal Williams in there over one of those guys. Who is the best wide receiver today? I'm going to say Devontae Adams. I think he's in line for a pretty big day.
Just the highest scoring?
It's vague, so yeah, let's go with highest scoring.
I'll say that. I concur. Matchup, opportunity, everything.
Devontae Adams. Okay, love it. You're the man, Matt. No, he's not. I'm a Patreon and love your content. Matt's content's okay. What else do we have here? AJ Dillon, we just talked about. Hurts or Fells in non-PPR.
I mean, if it's non-PPR, Fells is a touchdown-dependent monster.
I'd go Fells as well. Harrison Bryant, a sneaky play. We talked about Harrison Bryant and Njoku. So, yeah, I like Harrison Bryant as a punt play. I'd rather go to Njoku, I think. You did mention wanting out of Cleveland. Yeah, it's been a tough situation for Njoku this year. But, yeah, I don't hate it as a punt play. Nicholas says, I'm just glad someone had finally adjusted their volumes. What a freaking relief not to babysit my Apparently, we're very loud, Kevin. So, we did good today, though. Higgins and Kittle or Kelsey and Pierman? I'd go Higgins and Kittle. But I'm not fond on spending up a tight end today. Sit one, DJ Moore, Higgins, or Gio. Ooh, that comes from Tucker Silva. I would sit Higgins.
DJ Moore, probably.
Okay.
See, Higgins is actually my number one out of there.
Okay, so I was between Higgins and DJ Moore. I'll go with you, Kev. Let's go DJ Moore. Let's hit DJ Moore. Let's just ride that Bengals train. Atlanta wins in NFL today. Okay. I don't think Njoku is starting. I think it's Harrison Bryant. So that's pretty good to know. If Harrison Bryant is starting, I mean, Njoku's going to see snaps, but again, good punt play for either one of those. Is fading Hunt and going with the two cheapies in Kamara a good move, or drop one of the cheaps for Hunt in cash? You know, we talked about those four guys. You need at least three of four of them in your lineup. I'm prioritizing Kamara and Jamal Williams. If I can pay up and get Hunt, I'm going to. If I can't, I'm going to go down to Gio Bernard. That's kind of where I'm at right now, but I would like to prioritize Hunt over Gio if I can. Kev, agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the price differential. It's like you almost can't compare the two. I know you brought them up in the same sentence a lot, and I'm not trying to go against you. It's just that they're so different in price. It's like it's $2,500.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, no, I got you. Rather Croft over Njoku, to be honest. I don't hate it. Knox is out today, so if Buffalo's going to jump out to a lead, is it going to be Diggs? Is it going to be Croft? With Knox being out, Croft's going to be the tight end for them today. Again, I'm just worrisome that they could jump out to a big lead and then coast in that second half. But yeah, if they're going to get on the board early, I could see Croft finding the end zone.
How much is Tyler Croft?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say how much. 3,100 here it is.
Yeah, I think he's a cheap option. Yeah. So, a pivot off of a guy like Njoku that might carry ownership. I don't hate it. Any Brandon Cooks today? Yeah, we talked about that in a matchup in which Houston might be playing from behind. Obviously, it's a pretty good Packers secondary. Obviously, a really tough matchup last week against Tampa Bay. After going up 10-0, I feel like the whole team just fell wayward. It was very weird. But, yeah, I can definitely see a game script in where Deshaun Watson is having to air it out to guys like Cooks and Will Fuller today playing from behind. So I can definitely get behind Cooks. I live in Denver. It is cold AF here today. I ain't playing much from the Broncos-Chiefs game. I like that. Defenses. Pick one, Kev. Moore, Cooks, or Traquan Smith. That's tough. Pick one to sit.
That is a very good one.
Sorry, pick one to sit.
My order, Cooks, Traquan, Moore.
Okay. So you're sitting DJ Moore in that instance.
Yeah, I'm starting DJ Moore in the league. It's funny, I said so twice. I'm starting him in one of my leagues, but that's just because it's him or Odell, and I just don't like Odell either, really.
Okay. A lot of people are asking about the Tampa Bay defense, and I definitely don't hate it. Yes, their offensive line for the Raiders is banged up. Obviously, we had that whole entire COVID issue going on. So, yeah, I feel like they're going to be very susceptible today to sacks. We saw what the Buccaneers defense did against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, only giving up 201 total yards, obviously had a pick six, 5 sacks. So, yeah, I could definitely see the Bucs at 3,700. I definitely like them too. What else do we have here? Should I start Bucker if it's supposed to snow? Harrison Bucker. Yeah,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
you
it's
could
going to
see
be
a,
a
you could see
kicking
a lot
game.
of field goals. Yeah, Danny Amendola is a sneaky pick. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. We were talking about that Lions team. Your running backs for cash have Gio Williams and Kamara, but leaves off Hunt. Yeah. Oh, we just touched base on that. I feel like you can't have all four. You're gonna have to pick between three, unfortunately. Any cooks we talked about Njoku or Croft. We touched based on. Ooh, okay, Kev, DeAndre Swift or Gio? Because you did mention DeAndre Swift.
It's so tough. It's just such a cloudy situation, that backfield. I mean, the thing is, and I've been looking, it doesn't seem like Gio has a lot of comp this week. Like, that's the thing. You'd think it's like a journeyman, they try to get someone else involved, or maybe, but it doesn't seem like, there's anybody really going to be spelling him too much. So, I mean, like, you think Samaj P. Ryan's going to be like just spelling Gio? I don't know. I don't know. I just, that gives me confidence. But I think DeAndre Swift's ceiling is a lot higher.
Yeah,
I really do.
I agree with you there. Guys, 156 of you in here. Thank you so much for being in. Only 24 likes. Let's try and smash that like button if we can. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that now. Kev, couple minutes left here. I think we got one more question. Chris Carson or Hunt for FanDuel GPP, assuming that they're priced similarly. I can't say that word. I'll never get that word down. That is very tough. I think Chris Carson's a great pivot off of.
No, I meant the word, apparently.
Oh, I can't say that word
That's
ever.
really okay. I'm sorry, we'll move past it. Yeah, it is a tough call though. That's gonna, like, those guys week to week are gonna be like, you know what I mean? It's just they're gonna be doing better. It's opportunity wise, both look good. I mean, like you said, assuming they're similarly priced, I think.
You're just showing me up pronouncing that word correctly. So disrespectful. So disrespectful.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably going Carson, but that's
I kind of like Carson as a GPP play. I feel like Hunt's going to carry a lot of ownership. I don't know the pricing on FanDuel, but if they're soft on Hunt's pricing, I don't know. His ownership percentage right now on Draftkings is currently showing at 26%. So yeah, almost twice as much. It is twice as much. Math is hard, Kevin. 12 times 2 is 24.
Mine's 23, but thanks for the updated sheet.
So move past it. I just tried to get you back for the word that I can't pronounce. Hopkins or Julio? Oh God.
Same pricing. I mean, they're not the same pricing. They're what are 1,100 off, I think.
Yep.
So, but honestly, I like Hopkins because it's kind of sneaky. Yep. People are not as on Hopkins as they should be.
I mean, against opposing wide receivers, Seattle has been absolutely abysmal so far. So I definitely like pairing Kyler Murray and D-Hop, but I do currently like Devontae Adams more with Aaron Jones being out.
But do be careful too, because D-Hop isn't a lock yet. He's last I checked. I checked.
Yeah, so he does have that questionable tag next to him, which is scary, especially being that late game at 8:20. If he's out, you're kind of I would use the word screwed. So that would be tough. And perfect timing, Kev. We got 12:16 right now. My laptop where I was looking at the questions did die. So we're going to end it there, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Matt, thank you for monitoring the chat. Obviously we missed Matt and his big head today, but I think Kevin and I steered the ship pretty well. So, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Kev, any last thoughts for today's slate?
Nope.
Got nothing?
I got nothing. I'm excited. It's going to be a good one. I mean, I think there's so much upside. I'm just going to say again, reiterate, I'd play a lot of contests today. Like, I think week to week, obviously, you change, sometimes you might like a slate, sometimes you might not like it, but I think this is going to be the most I attack a slate so far this year. Coming in week 7, this is the most I'll be attacking a slate.
I like it. And my last note is that there's so much ownership on these running backs right now that I feel like there's so many good leverage plays in terms of tournaments. So I feel like it's a really good spot to take some chances on pivots. And if they pan out, I think you're going to put yourself in a fantastic situation in tournaments to make some really good money. So with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for coming in. And we will see you throughout the week. And